Lights, camera, action.
And the winner is...
Welcome back to the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast with Matt and Haley Schmidt. Happy New Year. Happy 2020. 2019 is behind us. What, good year? Do we have a good year, 2019?
Yeah, 2019 was a good year.
Overall, not bad. 2020 going to be pretty good, though.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be great.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions that you may have started or quit on already?
My resolution is always to not make a resolution, so.
Yeah, expectations are the worst. If you don't make a goal, you can't fail. So I support that theory and practice.
Yep, exactly.
My New Year's resolution is to not make fun of as many Vikings fans as I have in the past. We'll see how long that lasts, though.
I don't think that would be very successful.
We'll see how Sunday goes.
That's funny. Yeah.
But
Here's to more Packers Super Bowl victories in the 2020s, and Wisconsin sports have had a great decade.
They've been good.
Really, the last few years have been really good, so I hope it continues.
Wisconsin sports have had a very Wisconsin decade, and when I say that, I mean, so we won the Super Bowl like right away for the decade. The 2010 season, we won it in February 2011. But other than that, we're always really good, but then we don't win the championship.
Mm-hmm. We're still excited to watch, though, and I like it. And I like that we're at least in the conversation. Something to build on for the 2020s, right?
Yeah. They just need to win a championship in something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel our peak is like getting in the conversation. I feel like that's our peak. And we need to bust through it. Bust through it.
Yep, exactly. Cool. So here's our schedule for the day. We have, of course, a few trailers to discuss. We'll be getting into our review of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. That's episode 9 in the franchise. Then we will get into the Best Picture winner from 1990, which is Dances with Wolves. And we'll close out the episode with our rankings of all the Star Wars movies. Ready to kick things off?
Yeah, going into the trailer park, what's our first trailer? The Woman in the Window?
Yeah, so first we've got The Woman in the Window, and this stars Amy Adams, Julianne Moore is in this as well. My first reaction to the movie, or the trailer, is that this seems very similar to the plot from Rear Window. So Amy Adams is a woman who's agoraphobic. It's really difficult for her to go outside, really difficult for her to socialize. And she befriends Julianne Moore, who's a woman who lives across the street, I think, or like the building next door. She can see her in the building next door. So it seems like this is in New York or something. So her neighbor from across the street. And she sees Julianne Moore getting murdered.
Yeah, well, it shows she had like dinner and a bonding moment with Julianne Moore because, like you said, she's doesn't like talking to other people. She keeps to herself in her apartment, but for whatever reason, lets Julianne Moore in, and they have like a bonding night. And then, the next day is when she sees Gary Oldman's character, who is the husband to Julianne Moore, apparently beat her or kill her. So then naturally she calls the police, and they don't believe her, and Gary Oldman comes over, says, "You've never met my wife," and then the big reveal in the trailer is they show who his wife is, and it's a completely different person. It's not even Julianne Moore. So then, it takes... I mean, you're not going to know the entire plot from just the trailer, but from that point, she's trying to prove that Julianne Moore was real and actually murdered.
Yeah, so... Oh, go ahead.
I mean, this looks exactly like Rear Window, but you said you dug around, I don't know what, a little bit, or he saw this is actually based on something else?
Yeah, it's based on a book of the same name, and very similar plot to Rear Window, but it's not a remake and it's not an adaptation of Rear Window. It's an adaptation of this book.
I wonder if the inside of the book says this is a remake of Rear Window, so that's how the studio got around it.
It could be. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, that's what we both said. When did the first Rear Window come out?
50, I want to say in the 50s. Yeah, the original Rear Window came out in 1954. It stars Jimmy Stewart, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which, my dad, one of his favorite directors is Alfred Hitchcock, so I remember watching Rear Window. We had it on VHS, and remember watching that at a young age, so... And then Disturbia came out when we were in high school.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's
considered somewhat of a reimagining, of Rear Window. So
yeah, all these stories are very similar. Where it's someone who's cooped up in their house for whatever reason. They see, a murder or some sort of event going on across the street, and kind of putting their case out, and no one seems to believe them. So it's them kind of trying to prove themselves or prove that it happened.
Yeah, we'll see how this... I mean, I like the cast. Julianne Moore, I feel like she won her Oscar, finally, for Still Alice, like 5 years ago, and I can't think of anything she's done since.
Nothing notable.
I felt like she dropped off the map after she finally won her Oscar. Amy Adams has been nominated, I feel like, 10 times and has never won. Gary Oldman won an Oscar a couple of years ago, finally. So great cast. I don't know. I just don't know how this movie's going to... I don't think that... I'm not too excited for this movie. It seems like a story that we've seen multiple times, like we're talking... Even though it isn't an exact remake. We've seen Rear Window. We've seen Disturbia. I feel like we're going to know what happens in this movie unless they put a complete spin on it. Plus, one of my favorite things of Rear Window was the setting. Like, you would just look out the window and you would get to know all the neighbors and the things they would do. They built that set completely indoors, if I remember right, all the apartments for Rear Window.
Okay.
So the setting was a huge part of it because you're really just with Jimmy Stewart the whole time. So I feel like you need something a little extra like that in order to make a movie like this really interesting and good. So we'll see what they do with it. Mm-hmm. But nothing I'm really... The cast is the only reason I would be excited for this, but I'm not going to be running to the theater for this one.
Yeah. Maybe it's not something that I need to see in the theaters right when it comes out, but I love this type of story. I love this thriller mystery type thing. They mention in the trailer, like, oh, your medications, because like her anxiety and what have you, oh, your medications make you hallucinate. So and we see some of her hallucinations, imaginations. So I feel like it could be different enough. So I might have this higher on my list than you do, but I hope it's a good, thrilling story.
I feel like this is going to top at like 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right, that's fair. This one comes out in May of 2020. I was going to say May of next year, but we can't say that anymore. Yep. It's officially 2020.
May of this year.
This is coming out in May if you want to add that to your list. You found this next trailer.
Yeah, I just, not a lot of new trailers coming out right now. You kind of get a lot towards the end of the year because that's when the award season is going on. So slow week for trailers, but this is one I saw come out a week or so ago, and it's called Downhill, and it stars Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who you'd know from Veep or Seinfeld. And this looks like kind of a different role, at least for Will Ferrell. We're used to him in the slapstick comedy family type movies. Like we watched Daddy's Home 2 over Christmas. I'm used to seeing him in stuff like that. Although he has pulled out a dramatic role here and there, like Stranger Than Fiction or Everything Must Go. But this looks like a more drama than comedy, but there is still going to be some comedy in it where the two of them are a married couple with kids and they go to a ski resort for a week or weekend or vacation, what have you, and they're clearly fighting or arguing a lot. And
Well, it seems like, there's some tension and emotion because, his father passed away, and so I think he's kind of like re-examining his life and like, okay, like it could be over at any moment. And so yeah, they're having lunch outside at the ski chalet, and there's a avalanche, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus immediately puts her arms around the two kids, tries to protect them, and he gets up from the table, grabs his phone, and tries to running away to safety. And so it's...
Yeah, gotta save that phone.
So it's kind of, about her being like, wow, like, you didn't even try to protect us. And he's like, look, I couldn't have even run away in ski boots. Like, you're making more of this than it needs to be. So it seems kind of like like you said, it's a more serious role, but I think there's some kind of offbeat humor in it, too. Kind of a quirky kind of story is kind of what it looks like to me.
Yeah, so I mean, fresh off of Veep, this is like the first thing I think she'll be doing coming off of that show, which had a long running. So I don't know, the two of them are fairly good actors. I didn't even know this movie was being made, and then I saw the trailer come out, and I was like, oh, all right, this is coming out, this is happening. I think I saw it's only 90 minutes long, so sometimes being on the shorter side of things can help a movie like this. You're not going to dig into the weeds too much on it. It'll be a nice quick breeze, so maybe it'll be good, but again, this is one that I'm not going to be running to the theaters to see, but who knows? I mean, if they both turn in really good performances, I mean, this isn't going to be an award-worthy performance or anything, but if the two of them can show their acting chops here, I don't know, that's always worth a watch every once in a while.
Yeah, and this one's coming out right around the corner. It's set to release on Valentine's Day, so coming out soon. And third for this week, we have A Quiet Place Part 2. So a teaser dropped a few weeks ago, and it was literally just Emily Blunt and her kids, and you see them taking like one step off of their like designated path. So that's kind of the first teaser that we had, and now the full-length trailer is out. Like I said, Emily Blunt is back in this. John Krasinski is directing again, and in the trailer we see a little bit about the beginning, like day one when the alien invaders come, but also skipping to the present now, where it's the mother and her kids kind of moving on.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it do you think will take place in the past or in the future? What percentage?
I don't know. I would think it's probably not very much.
I wouldn't think so either, because John Krasinski is not credited as being an actor in this movie, and if a chunk of this would take place in the past, I would think they would show him.
Yeah, the only thing...
I know they reference him in the trailer. They say, "Oh, Dad's back there," and
yeah, and I wonder. Really, the only thing I can think of is why they would need to go to the past is to explain any sort of, because it's like it doesn't really matter. Like to me, it doesn't matter how the aliens got there. Like we know they hunt based on sound. So I don't know what more the past could tell us about them. So I'd be interested to see kind of where that goes.
Yeah, because you're right. Like, I don't need to know how the aliens got to Earth. I don't need to see their initial attack on mankind. It's kind of nice not knowing and leaving that mystery there. And honestly, I never thought there should be a sequel to this. I think this is more of a product of the first one was a huge hit, and they just wanted to make a sequel. Luckily Krasinski is back writing and directing, so I think it has a lot of potential there, but this isn't a movie that I thought should have gotten a sequel, so I'm worried that we're going to get a lot of stuff that I didn't really need to see, like the flashback explanation, and it'll be interesting to see where they take the story in the present day, because I thought it ended great. I don't know where they're going to go I know in the trailer it shows them meeting other people.
Yeah, and Cillian Murphy is one of the people that they come across. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what his journey has been so far in this point. But the one thing that was great about the trailer is that it gave you that tension, just like the first movie did, where a lot of times in horror movies, scary movies, that the sounds are what freak you out, but in this one it's the silence that really builds the tension, and you could feel that all right from the trailer. So I think at least that aspect might come through, which would be exciting. I mean, that's the best part of the first one, so if they can keep that going, I think it could be good.
Yeah, I think there's going to be less silence though, because they know they can kill the aliens now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
So I think that'll hurt it. And I was getting a lot of Walking Dead vibes in this.
Yeah.
Like finding other people, and they even say, must be Murphy's character, says the aliens aren't the enemies, or the people that are still left aren't worth saving. Because the whole point of Walking Dead is the zombies aren't the enemies, it's the remaining people. Because the only people that can survive in that world are bad people.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of Walking Dead vibes here. And in that flashback scene when she was driving around, she kicked it in reverse because a bus was piling on her. Was the alien driving that bus? Or
yeah, it was at least like popping through the windshield. So yeah,
it was interesting. Can these things drive?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, this one is set to release March 20th of 2020. Okay, let's get into our review for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. We have JJ Abrams back on this film. He wrote and directed Episode 9. He also did Episode 7, correct?
Yep.
With Rian Johnson in between doing Episode 8. So we've got JJ Abrams back on this one. He wasn't originally slated to do Episode 9, though, was he?
No, I don't know how many people were, but I think Colin Trevorrow was supposed to do it at one point, and he was the guy who directed Jurassic World.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so JJ Abrams was back, which I was excited about. I really liked Force Awakens, so I was excited to have him back on this. That's my take anyway. We have all the big characters back. Daisy Ridley as Rey, Adam Driver as Ben Solo / Kylo Ren, John Boyega's back as Finn, Oscar Isaac is back as Poe, and then of course we've got Mark Hamill as Luke and Carrie Fisher as Leia. Smaller roles for them. Obviously, Carrie Fisher passed away before they did the filming for this movie, so all of her footage is like archival footage and stuff, right?
Yeah, yep.
So give me your take.
I thought it was fine. It was good. Like, if you just look at it as just a movie, you'd probably view it on a more negative side of things because it's a really messy movie. There's a lot of things jammed into a almost 2.5 hour long movie. But, it's a Star Wars movie, so I guess it's just, what's your definition of a Star Wars movie? Do you just need a space adventure and some cool fight scenes, and you just need things to make somewhat sense to entertain you? Or, do you want a Star Wars movie to be a little cleaner and show you a little more lore of the universe that it's built within? It's kind of however you want to look at it, but, it's an okay to good Star Wars movie, but the first half of this specifically is definitely a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah. What felt messy to you?
I mean, it just, 5 minutes you're over here doing one thing, and then right away you're over here doing another thing. It was just, you're jumping all over the place. So many things going on. It wasn't necessarily hard to keep it straight. Like, I could follow along the story, but it was just, you're jumping all over the place, and they were introducing a couple new things to the Star Wars universe and to this trilogy. So you had to introduce them and then explain them all in a movie or half a movie. So it was just, it just felt a little much to me.
Yeah, I watching it, I didn't necessarily feel that it was, like, I didn't pick up on any, like, messiness or disjointed, but with that being said, like, I definitely feel like the second half of the movie had a much clearer, like, path that it was on. So it's like in the moment I didn't really notice, like, oh my god, we're here, now we're here, now we're here, but also, like, when things were moving along more steadily at the end, it was like, okay, this, like, it was picking up more for me, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. The ending is the back half of it's the part of the movie I like the most. I don't know.
Yeah.
This movie, it feels like half of it is somewhat of a Return of the Jedi remake, and the other half is just them creating and introducing a bunch of new plot devices to forward the story. And yeah, I don't know. It was
Yeah,
fun.
that was something I didn't like. They introduced a few new characters and a few items where I went, like, one, either why do we need that at all, and two, it's like that they had to rush through it because they had to, like, quick put something in there, it seemed like.
The items that are the things I have more so an issue with. They did introduce a couple new characters, but that's, I feel like you get introduced to new characters in each Star Wars movie. That isn't anything too crazy, but the items where it's like, we have to go get this thing, go on a big quest to find this item, that'll then lead us to this item, that will then lead us to this item, and finally bring us to our final destination. It's, why not just cut out two of those three things that you're trying to hunt down and just say, we need to find this to get us here.
Yeah.
But it was literally find this item to find this, and then get to the end point. It was just a little too messy. And part of me feels like this movie is a huge reaction to the backlash that some people felt from Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. Not everyone loved Rian Johnson's take on Star Wars and some of the things that he did in Last Jedi, which I didn't love it. Like, I liked it. I've learned to appreciate it a little bit more because Last Jedi was different. Because, Force Awakens was almost a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope, which I was fine with because I'm like, okay, just do a somewhat of a remake to do something people like and use it to introduce new characters and then expand on it and make it different from that point, which they did do with Last Jedi. It was different. Instead of having Kylo Ren as the new Darth Vader and Snoke as the new Emperor, they had him, he killed Snoke and now he's the guy in charge. So they made it a little different. But now I feel like not everyone loved that. And now this was like a huge overreaction to the people that were upset.
Overcorrection or something.
Yeah, because, I mean, not to give, I'm not really going to give anything away here, but I felt like JJ Abrams just undid a couple things that Rian Johnson did just because either the studio didn't like it or JJ Abrams didn't like it, or people didn't like it, so they redid it. Like, a big thing in Last Jedi, not a big thing, but something that happened in Last Jedi was Kylo Ren, he wore the helmet in Force Awakens. That's kind of like his Vader helmet.
Yeah.
And in Last Jedi, one of the ways that he differentiates himself from Darth Vader is he smashes his helmet, and it's kind of his moment of, I'm going to be my own person now. I'm not going to be Darth Vader. I'm going to be my own person.
He's not hiding behind this facade.
Yeah, or he's not pretending to be Darth Vader anymore. He's going to be Kylo Ren. That was the whole point of that scene when he broke his helmet in Last Jedi. And then within, the first 15 or so minutes of this movie, they put the helmet back together and he's wearing his helmet again. Well, that's dumb.
Yeah, you're right. And I
know you liked how the helmet looked.
I loved how the helmet looked. It was so cool because they took his old helmet and rejoined all the pieces together with this bright red kind of metallic thing, which is really similar to like a type of like Japanese pottery thing where it's like, yeah, they take broken pieces and then join it all together with gold. So it's like, oh, here's like this repair. It's kind of cool. You're right. I think it looked really cool, but I see your perspective that
the message behind it,
yes.
the metaphor behind it, they completely undid it. So anyways, that's how I feel like this movie is partially a remake of Return of the Jedi, which I guess is fine. It'll be good, but I'm looking for something different, which is what I've learned to appreciate about The Last Jedi. And then the other half was just kind of a bunch of plot devices to put them on an adventure that, I don't know, I thought was really choppy, and they were every 5 minutes I felt like they were changing locations and going somewhere new, and it was just a lot to take in. Mm-hmm. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with some of that. For me, I don't know as much about the Star Wars universe as a whole, like Star Wars canon. So for me, I didn't take some of this stuff quite as seriously, maybe. And like you said, kind of comparing it like standalone movie versus like part of this overarching story. I mean, in the end, I think it was enjoyable. It had a satisfying ending to me, which always helps. In terms of like some of the things that I liked, without getting like too far into spoilers, I really like how they used the Force in this movie.
Mm-hmm. That was something I was gonna bring up for sure. That was my favorite part of this movie.
Okay.
Was the expansion of the Force.
Yeah.
Which we can get into the specific details of what I liked later, but yes, I am in complete agreement that I loved almost in every instance the use of the Force in this movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. What sort of award nominations do we think this might be up for?
Maybe visuals. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's going to be like the typical, I mean, most of the Star Wars movies get, a visual effects nomination. This probably will. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I should have looked, but I'm pretty sure John Williams did this score again.
Yeah.
I believe he did. So there's a possibility he might be nominated for that as well. But when it's the 9th installment of the same series, it's a little more difficult to get nominated for that, I would say.
It'd be interesting to look back and see how many of the Star Wars movies he got nominated for. Because if it's
probably just the first
only A New Hope, then he probably won't get one for this.
But it was good, again, as always.
Yep. What score would you give it?
I gave this one an 8.0 out of 10. For me, it was entertaining, and kind of like I said, for someone who's not as in tune to the greater Star Wars universe, I think it had a satisfying enough ending for me.
That's fair. I mean, you're not alone.
It didn't. Yeah, I mean, it didn't blow me away, but it was a really good movie. If you like Star Wars, I think you will like the movie. If you love Star Wars, you probably won't like it as much.
No, that's fair.
I
think a lot of people probably share that opinion with you because while this movie is 55% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, it's 86% from the audience.
Okay.
So you're probably not alone in that. It's a little bit higher than what I would give it, and I gave it a 7.1.
Ooh, okay. That's a little lower than I would have thought, but that's okay.
Like it's a fine movie. It's okay. I was definitely disappointed with it, but I did enjoy watching it for the most part, but that's more so my expectations were so high because JJ Abrams was back on it, and I did love Force Awakens, so I was kind of hoping, I was having my expectations maybe a little too high on this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why, in the sevens, that's still a good movie for me, but it is definitely not what I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's tough because obviously this is the ending movie of a trilogy, so there's a lot of spoilers in this. So we'll move into the spoiler section now because it's just tough to talk about this movie without some of the spoilers. So if you haven't seen Rise of Skywalker or for whatever reason don't really care about hearing spoilers, go ahead and look at the time card or skip ahead to when we're done talking about it. So, all right. So in the spoiler section, I don't know. I guess.
Do we want to talk about the different ways that they use the Force, since that both of us really liked that
sure,
aspect?
yeah. I mean, some of the big moments that I really liked was when Rey, when they're, I can't remember the name of the planet, but it's when they're trying to hunt down the dagger or whatever. They're trying to find the Wayfinder to get to the planet that Palpatine's on. Mm-hmm. And Chewie gets kidnapped, so he's on this transport, and Rey tries using the Force to like bring the transport down.
Yeah, and it's like this huge vehicle.
Yeah, and then Kylo shows up, and it's kind of a tug of war between the two of them using the Force on it. And then that's when one of the big moments of the movie happens, where she's trying to use the Force to pull the transport down, and then all of a sudden, boom, she uses Force lightning, and she blows up the transport, and she thinks that she kills Chewie, for doing it, but he really didn't die. But that was a cool moment. That was like they're just using the Force to move bigger objects, because Empire Strikes Back was the first time they were able to use the Force to move an object, when Luke grabbed his or had the Force moved his lightsaber to his hand when he was hanging upside down.
Oh, yeah.
Hoth.
Yep.
That was the first time they were able to move an object using the Force, at least in the movies. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of cool to see them expand on it in that way. I loved also how Rey and Kylo were able to communicate via the Force and talk to each other while not knowing where they were.
Yeah, it's sort of like in a telepathic sort of way.
Yep, which was cool, because in this movie they introduced, because they were able to do that in, I can't remember if it was Force Awakens or Last Jedi, was when they introduced that they had some kind of connection where they were able to communicate that way.
Yeah. I had forgotten about it. I'm like, whoa, where'd this come from? And I thought, oh yeah, I think they did this in Last Jedi a little bit. People
have been able to communicate like by talking via the Force, like Alec Guinness or Obi-Wan would talk to Luke and be like, use the Force or things like that. But this is the first time like they could see each other fight.
Yes.
While using the Force in different places. And that fight scene in Kylo's throne room or his office or whatever it was really, really cool. And that was when they found out that they could like transport items from one place to another, because whenever they'd hit an item with their lightsabers, it would move from where Kylo was to where Rey was. So that was a really cool introduction or new thing for the Force, because that hadn't been done before.
Yeah, that was cool, and that's kind of how, if we jump all the way to the end, that's how Rey's able to use like two separate lightsabers. Because she has one that... Does she have Luke's on her?
Yeah, that's the one she's been using throughout the trilogy, is Luke's. The blue one that he loses in Empire Strikes Back, which they never answered how... Which I don't think they ever intended to, but they never answered how Maz got that lightsaber that fell from Cloud City. But yeah, that's how... so by the end of the movie, and we'll get to it, but Kylo becomes Ben Solo, so he's a good guy again. And Rey has two lightsabers and he has none, so they use that trick for her to like basically teleport or give him one of the lightsabers, and now he's armed with a lightsaber. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I really like that too. And I really liked, because remind me if this is come up in any of the others. I feel like maybe some of it did in Last Jedi, but it was cool seeing Rey use the Force for like healing.
Yeah, the first time that actually showed up in Star Wars was The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
So the episode that aired the day before this movie came out was when Baby Yo heals Carl Weathers' character. That was the first time that you see someone using the Force to heal someone. Mm-hmm. So that was actually the first time. And then a day or two later, they're doing it in this movie where they're using the Force to heal a giant snake, and then...
Yeah, I was going to say it. Yeah, Rey used it. Okay, maybe I do remember that now in The Mandalorian, because kind of it's a smaller, like, cut or wound or something, right?
Yeah, it's right on his leg after at night they get attacked by, like, these flying creatures.
Yeah.
And, like, a fire. They have a fire.
Okay, yeah, because you see that, and then, Rey heals this, snake-type creature thing that they find. But then also it, like, comes back at the end where her and Ben, like, basically use it to, like, save each other's lives.
Yeah, yep. And I'm all for the expansion of using the Force. Like, they even, in the very first, not very first, but at the beginning of episode 7, they even use the Force by stopping a blaster. Like, a shot from a blaster.
Yes, that's
Kylo
right.
used it.
Yeah.
That had never been done before. So I'm all for expanding the Force in any ways possible. So that was definitely one of the big positives for me in this movie. But I guess, I mean, just going back to the beginning of the movie on why I think this movie was a giant mess. I mean, first 5 minutes, they show Palpatine, right? Like, the very first scene in this movie is basically Kylo Ren on a weird planet, finding an artifact, and then going to the planet that Palpatine is on, and then they introduce Palpatine.
Because when did he die? Or when did we think he died?
Well, at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
When Vader throws him down, like, the Death Star.
Okay.
At the end of it. And, I don't know, that was... Reintroducing him, I didn't love.
Because did we have any hints about him existing in any shape or form?
No. And that's a big problem I have with this is all 3 movies, just none of them felt too connected. Felt like each director kind of did their own thing with it and not having an overarching theme to it. I think that's not a hot take. I think a lot of people feel that way about it. But that's 100% how I feel. Because to introduce Palpatine in the last movie out of nowhere without any hints of him being the ultimate bad guy just felt weird to me. Kind of... I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't love that they were reintroducing Palpatine as a bad guy here. It felt like kind of a cop-out to me. Like, oh, let's just make a bunch of fans happy, or what they think, will make a bunch of fans happy, and introduce the big bad guy from the original trilogy. Yeah, that'll make him happy. He was behind everything. But it just doesn't work for me. Like, I mean, everything they do makes sense, because he was behind Snoke.
Yeah.
So, like, nothing they do, like, breaks continuity, but it kind of just feels like a cop-out.
Yeah, it feels like it came out of nowhere. Well, how did you feel, or, like, did you see it coming that's Palpatine is Rey's grandfather? Like, we find that out.
No, I didn't see that coming either, and that was something else I didn't love. I liked that in Last Jedi, they just had Rey be... like, nobody. Like, her parents were nobody, because it's kind of along the whole theme of, like, anybody can be a Jedi. You don't have to be related to any of these big name characters in Star Wars to be important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
You don't have to be a Palpatine. You don't have to be a Skywalker. You don't have to be related to any of these people to be important in Star Wars. And... I liked that. And then, in this movie, they just ruin it by saying, Rey, you're a Palpatine, which is another thing that I feel like JJ Abrams or the studio or whoever is in charge of it decided to change from Rian Johnson. Because in Last Jedi, Rian Johnson clearly states, or has Kylo Ren clearly state, your parents were nobodies. And I felt like they saw the fan tweets and everyone online saying, no, Rey has to be related to someone important, because that's what some people wanted. And then that was something that they course corrected and just decided to be like, oh no, Kylo, you were mistaken. She's actually a Palpatine. Like, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's... I guess I don't really have anything to say, so never mind.
I don't know what purpose it serves either.
Yeah.
She doesn't even want to be related to Palpatine. Like, I don't know what her relation to him did plot-wise. I think they kind of had it hinted as like, oh, this is why you're going to go to the dark side. Mm-hmm. Because you're related to the Emperor. But, I mean, that doesn't mean you're going to go on the dark side. I mean, you go to the dark side for numerous reasons, just being angry in general. So, I didn't love that. And then I also didn't love... So, in order to get to the planet that Palpatine is on, you had to get... Do you remember what it was called? What object they had to find in order to get to the planet that Palpatine was on?
Sith something or other. I don't know.
It was a Wayfinder?
Yeah.
It's a really clever name, right? It'll help you find your way.
Yeah.
They're introducing this brand new object. Mm-hmm. That I'm like, just retcon something from a previous film or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like, I hated that they introduced this. Whenever they said the word Wayfinder in the movie, I cringed. Because I'm like, one, that's a stupid-ass name. And two, I hated that they introduced this item out of nowhere that they had to go then find. But then while trying to find that item, I mean, they had to find like a couple other items, or they had to go to a planet that apparently Luke and Lando had tried to find, and like they were already trying to find a Wayfinder to go to Palpatine, which is something that's never been referenced before.
Yeah.
And they get there, and they go to find the ship that this person was on, and they find a Sith dagger, which is kind of cool. I wish there would have been more stuff around the Sith dagger, but it turns out it's just something they had to find to then go to the Death Star to like find a Wayfinder.
A clue, basically,
yeah,
in this
it was
manhunt or whatever.
I just hated that it was like, find this dagger to find the Death Star, to find a Wayfinder, to get to this planet. And this part...
I hear... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
When they found the dagger, and they go to the planet that the Death Star was on, and how they used the dagger, I almost laughed. Do you remember what they had to do?
Because like how she like held it up and like, oh, the outline of the dagger matched the outline of
the Death Star
and wreckage.
This little thing popped out of it, and that pointed to where the Wayfinder was. What the fuck are we watching right now? Like, are you kidding me? Like, one thing, the Death Star got destroyed.
Yeah.
So how in the
hell...
How
is there something left?
How is there something left, and how is there something that you can match up? Like, what are the odds of matching something up to the Death Star?
Yeah, you'd have to stand in, like, the perfect spot.
Yeah.
The perfect angle for anything to line up. And it's like, yeah, this little curved piece sticks out and it points to, oh, hey, this is where it is. But it's not like you can easily just... It's not like it's a flat surface where you go, boom, here it is. Like, it's...
Yeah, like, that was...
It's not even that good of a direction.
That was dumb, too, and it's like, what if that part of the ship split in half, and now the two parts they're supposed to match up to the dagger aren't there anymore? Like, this is so stupid to me. I hated that part so much.
You know, as we're talking, like, oh, find this to find this to find this, like... This is probably an oversimplification, but it felt very much like an escape room. Where it's just like, hey, you have to do this, and now you do this, and here's another clue for this piece.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's
you
just,
know?
And this is all in the first half where they're going on all these adventures, and they made a big point to keep all the characters together, which I did like, because The Last Jedi, people didn't like that they got split up, right? Like Finn and one or two other characters that would go to the casino planet, and then Rey was off with Luke, so like people were split up, so people wanted them together, which I appreciate, and I'm glad they were together. But these little mini adventures and like MacGuffins that they had to go find were just a little too much for me. And yeah, the dagger thing was ridiculous. But oddly enough, kind of after that point is when I started to enjoy it a little bit more. Because I really liked the fight she had with Kylo on the Death Star after that. That was really cool. Again, using the Force in different ways to like force jump, and she pushed Finn out of the way because he was there and wanted to help, but she was kind of pushing him out of the way. And then this is that first instance we see of the healing where Rey actually stabs Kylo Ren during the fight. Like
right through the chest.
Yeah, like, oh, he's dead, which I thought might have been a little interesting, like, if he actually stayed dead. Like, oh, that's interesting. If Rey actually killed him, maybe that's something that could have driven her to the dark side, that she actually killed someone. But she uses the Force healing to heal him, and then takes his TIE fighter and goes off. So now he's kind of stranded there. But that was a cool fight scene. But I didn't love the Wayfinder. And also, I don't love... So this is an ancient artifact, right? It's like a Sith ancient artifact.
Yeah.
I never love it when they have to plug. Did you notice that when Kylo used it, he had like 3 things plugged into it?
Oh,
so I'm like,
on his ship.
Oh, I'm glad this ancient artifact is compatible with your advanced TIE fighter technology.
Right. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are some things that you liked or didn't like in this movie? I've been talking for a while, I feel like, so.
I would say, like, so at the very end, you kind of have, like, two things going on, where you've got Rey going up against Kylo for a bit, and then against Palpatine, and then you also have, like, Poe and Finn, and they're trying to, like, rally all these ships to fight this new, like Star Destroyer army.
Yeah,
right?
That was something else that I didn't love either. They just gave Death Star powers to every single Star Destroyer.
Yeah. But what was cool is, like, you have this huge Star Destroyer fleet, and this is when Poe's like, hey, like, let's call everyone. And just as, you know, people are getting shot down, he's like, sorry guys, like, I think this is the end. All of a sudden, like, you see all these ships show up to, like, help the good side, you know. That was really exciting for me. And so I really liked that part, and I liked, like, going back and forth between that and then, like, Rey with, like, her battles and stuff too. I did not like, however, at the end, after she and Ben, because, right, he's like,
yeah,
he's back to Ben Solo.
I guess,
right?
yeah, really quickly, he does become Ben Solo again, because there was a scene that I thought was really corny, but I really liked it. So after Rey takes his ship and kind of leaves him on the Death Star by himself, he has one of those moments where after she heals him, I don't know if he just realizes something or whatever, but he has a conversation with his dad. So Harrison Ford is back in this movie for a scene. Mm-hmm. Which was unexpected. I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming either.
And basically, it's very clearly a memory, and is basically they're redoing that scene from Force Awakens when they're on that bridge or whatever right before Kylo kills him.
Yep.
And it's basically redoing that conversation, but this time Kylo realizes everything, throws his lightsaber in the ocean, and in that moment becomes Ben Solo again. So that's how he kind of turns from Kylo to Ben. So now he's good again. So just to kind of get that out of the way.
Yeah. So yeah, the two of them are kind of working together against Palpatine at the end. The one thing that I absolutely hated about that was, of course, the kiss.
Yeah, so after the battle, when they defeat Palpatine, Rey is essentially killed, and then Ben comes over and does the Force healing on her, brings her back to life, and then I hated that too.
They kiss, and it's stupid, and it's like, no, why?
Throughout the whole trilogy, they're basically treating each other as brother and sister, which I liked.
Yeah,
like,
that was fine.
They have a connection, and it doesn't have to be romantic, and then to turn it into a stupid romantic, like, this stereotypical scene where they look at each other and then kiss.
And she's just like, Ben? And they kiss? And it was stupid. The Star Wars universe is terrible at romantic relationships. They don't know how to write them. They should just never try.
You don't like Han and Leia?
It's fine. I
hated that they kissed. I really did not like that.
Yeah. I think that was one. Okay, that, and, like I told you, Poe's like, hey, we need to get everyone that has a ship. We need to get them over here to take down the Star. That was, like, the cheesiest montage I've ever seen. I love a good montage, and I thought that was so stupid. People are literally sliding across the tops of their ships and, like, high-fiving. I'm like, this is so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I know that doesn't, like, add to the plot, but that was one, like, you said you were cringing of, like, oh, Wayfinder, every time they said that. I cringed so hard through that montage. I'm like, this is the stupidest, like, rally the troops thing I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. I mean, some things I did like in this movie, C-3PO is traditionally a very, very annoying character, but he was actually pretty funny, and I thought was really good in this movie. And it was kind of weird. He has that moment where he translates the dagger, but he isn't allowed to say the translation, so
because it's in Sith, and he's not allowed to translate into, like, the dark language or whatever.
So they basically have to reboot him in order for him to say it, and that's when he has the line from the trailer where I'm saying, taking one last look at my friends. It was nice, and I thought C-3PO was really good in this movie, but they treated him like shit in this movie.
They did.
I'm like, don't say I'm taking one last look at my friends to these people. They treat you like shit in this movie, and I felt bad. Like, why are you hating C-3PO right now?
Yeah.
I did like that, because one of my critiques for the last two movies, and maybe some of the prequels too, is C-3PO and R2-D2 are always just there, but they don't really have anything to do with the plot. They're always just there. And I'm glad that he actually had something to do with the plot in this movie, and I liked that, because I'd rather have that than just have them in the background hanging out, being like,
for like weird comic relief or something. Yep.
But yeah, I thought he was funny in this, and I like C-3PO, but they treated him like shit, and I didn't think that I didn't think they were deserving of him calling them his friends.
Yeah.
But then, of course, R2 has his memory backed up, so it's fine.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So it's all good in the end.
Yeah.
Anything else that you like that you wanted to bring up? There's like maybe two other things I guess I might ask you.
Yeah, so towards the end of the movie, when they're on, I can't remember the name of the planet, otherwise I'd be saying it, but the planet that Palpatine is on.
Yeah.
I thought that planet itself and that setting was really cool with the lightning and how dark it was. But I was kind of confused. So basically it was a giant coliseum, and there were a bunch of like former Sith lords in the background. Mm-hmm. And which I thought was cool, but I didn't know if they were actually there, if they were ghosts or spirits or metaphors to the dark side, which would then move on into the next person. Mm-hmm. I wish that would have been a little clearer, but I liked that whole setting. And I guess the last thing, you get to see Rey's lightsaber, her own lightsaber at the end.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about.
I really liked it, because the final step in becoming a Jedi is basically making your own lightsaber. That's why Luke has a green one in Return of the Jedi, because he'd been using Anakin's, the blue one, in the first two movies, so that's why he has a green one.
Okay.
Because you have to make your own lightsaber.
Gotcha, so I forgot about that.
Yep, so I think that's cool that that you get to see it. I wish she would have used it. Like, I wish that would have been the lightsaber that they use in the final battle. Like, she gives Kylo. Like, it was cool that Leia had a lightsaber and gave it to her, or she finds it at some point. That's really cool. And I actually really like that flashback where they show Leia in Jedi training.
Yeah.
I actually really like that scene, and that Leia left a lightsaber behind, but I almost wish she would have given Ben Luke's lightsaber to use at the end, which I think she actually does anyways, but then instead of using Leia's, she uses her own that she had made. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah. What do you think it means that her lightsaber is like yellow or gold?
I don't,
because I don't know if we've seen a gold one before.
In standard Star Wars movies, no. I think it is canon. I think there has been a yellow one before. I can't name like who has it, but I think there has been one before in either the books, comics, or TV shows. Mm-hmm. But do
we know if it has any particular meaning? Like, I know some people are like, oh, certain colors mean this or whatever.
I'm not sure if it does. You can maybe look it up, but I'm not sure it does. I thought it was cool that it was a different color.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like, that gave it a little more excitement.
It's like Mace Windu with the purple one.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
What about you? Do you have... Sound like you had a couple more things that you either liked or didn't
I would say,
like.
one thing I wanted to ask about is how you felt about Finn's storyline. Because I will say, for me, like, he is, like, the central... I mean, it's between him and Rey, but it's like he's such a big part in, like, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker was all about Rey, which is fine, but I feel like Finn's storyline and this just, like, it was nothing. He was just there to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. How did you feel about that?
I get what you're saying. I agree that he was huge in Force Awakens. I mean, you could argue he was almost the main character. Him and Poe are the first two you see, and then you follow Finn, and he's the one that discovers Rey and everything. And I like that he was the first, not the first, but one of the few non-Jedis to use a lightsaber. Like, he uses a lightsaber multiple times in that movie, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So you're right. I wish they would have maybe expanded on him a little bit. They do hint at him using the Force in Rise of Skywalker, because during the final battle, he says a couple things like, I sense that is where we have to... like, attack.
Yeah. Okay,
so
that's right.
They do hint at him having some Force abilities, but they don't really touch on it too much. But you're right. And something else with Finn that they don't really touch on, and I feel like maybe they changed as a reaction to Last Jedi, is I think in Force Awakens, him and Rey clearly, maybe not clearly, but in my opinion, have somewhat of a romantic inkling. Mm-hmm. And then in Last Jedi... Rose, do you remember Rose?
Yep.
She gets introduced and is in love with Finn.
Yeah.
And then she's just not even in Rise of Skywalker. They don't even bring up, like, any... I
mean, she's there, but
they don't... She's there for, like, a scene.
They don't interact much, if at all.
So it's like... I don't know. I just felt like we were this romantic triangle got brought up, and then just nothing came about it. Yep. And it became a square
totally
because
erased.
Kylo, because then Ben kissed Rey, and I don't know. I feel like they just ignored it, and whether that's right or wrong, that's just another thing that happened in Last Jedi that they decided to ignore.
Yeah, I agree.
How did you feel about, I guess, just Kylo / Ben Solo being redeemed? Did you like that he became a good guy? Did you think he should have stayed a bad guy?
Honestly, I think I was hoping... I guess I don't know if I was hoping he would just stay the bad guy, or maybe his, like, redemption arc, like, wasn't satisfying enough. Like, I'm not sure how I feel. Like, if it's just like, his redemption wasn't satisfying enough, or if, like, I actually wanted him to stay the bad guy. But I guess either way, I was a little disappointed that he came around. I don't know.
Yeah, because I get what you're saying, because I'm kind of in the same boat, because after Force Awakens, I definitely wanted him to be redeemed, because he had that scene with Han Solo at the end, or Harrison Ford, and I was like, okay, I don't want Han Solo to die in vain, so maybe they can turn this around and make him good, which is what they ended up doing. They used that exact scene again.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was satisfying. But after Last Jedi, where he had a chance to turn good when him and Rey fought in that throne room, and Rey was like, no, like, come back to being good. And he killed Snoke and kind of took the mantle as being the big baddie. I don't know. After that, I almost didn't want him to become redeemed. I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think overall, I might lean towards him not being redeemed because of just the things that he had done. And it's kind of the same argument people have with Darth Vader. Should he have a completely redeemable arc because he killed billions of people, and should you be forgiven for just one good deed? Mm-hmm. Kind of the same thing here.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll just be something that's debated, but I can see why he'd be torn, because I'm kind of torn in the same way. But that, again, goes, I think, with this trilogy not having an overarching cohesive story.
Right.
Because you get JJ Abrams to do Force Awakens and hints at Kylo being redeemed at the end and Harrison Ford or Han Solo not dying in vain, but then Rian Johnson comes in and does his own story and changes it up, which is fine, but he definitely made it seem like Kylo is going to be the big baddie and not redeemable, and then JJ comes in again and flips it again. So it's that's where the issue is with this trilogy.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, I didn't have any other parting thoughts.
I guess the last thing for me is the Knights of Ren. I thought were not really used at all. So throughout the whole trilogy, that's like they're Kylo Ren's like secret bodyguard, and that's who Ben Solo fights at the end when he gets the lightsaber from Rey. Mm-hmm. They've been hinted at being these big bad, like cool guys. Like when you see them in action, you're gonna love them. They're kind of that last resort, ultimate team of fighters, and then they're just not used. And I think it kind of, again, I feel like this movie was JJ Abrams' episode 8 and 9 in one movie. Like, he was basically doing, the first half is what he thinks his episode 8 would be, and then the second half is what his episode 9 would be. So he probably had to cut a lot of stuff out, because they had hinted at the Knights of Ren having some really cool action scenes and being these really cool characters that would have cool fight scenes and were Force users that were going to be cool in action, then they're barely used at all. So I guess that was my last thing. There's a lot of things that I think were underutilized and we didn't get to see a whole lot because they tried jamming so much into one movie.
Okay, so that wraps up our discussion on the Rise of Skywalker.
So that was our Rise of Skywalker review. So next up we have the Best Picture winner for 1990, which we watched this... Do you remember, I think we had watched one right before it, and it was like 10 p.m., which you're notorious for falling asleep during movies. Mm-hmm. And I decided to put this on anyways, and this is a 3-hour-long movie, and you amazingly stayed up the whole time.
I stayed up through the whole thing, because I do. This movie just captivated me, and I loved it.
Yeah, so we have Dances with Wolves.
So this movie is based on the novel by Michael Blake, who also wrote the screenplay. And it was, Kevin Costner directed and also starred in the leading role of this movie. His character is Lieutenant John Dunbar. He's a Union Civil War soldier who is stationed at a Western, like, frontier outpost. And he ends up befriending a tribe of Lakota Sioux Native Americans, and they give him the name Dances with Wolves. So that's kind of where the title comes from here. And also in this movie, we have Mary McDonnell, who plays, her character name is Stands with a Fist, and she is a white woman who had been raised in this tribe. I wasn't familiar with her much at all. Are you familiar with any of the other things she's done?
Not really.
You know, looking at other stuff she's been in, honestly, she's more well-known for her TV roles. She's done things recently like The Closer and the new Fargo series. She also starred in Battlestar Galactica. So, not someone that I've seen in other movies, but she has been, active in Hollywood. Also in this, the tribe medicine man is Kicking Bird, who is played by Graham Greene. He's been in a ton of things. He's been in The Green Mile. Recently, he was in Wind River. He's also in the Twilight movies. I feel like that's probably the first time I saw him in anything. But we have him. And then also as well, another tribe member. We have Rodney Grant playing Wind in his hair. So those are kind of the main characters. I mean, really that's, who the movie mainly focuses on. This film was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, and it had wins in Best Picture. Kevin Costner won for Best Director. Michael Blake won for Adapted Screenplay. And they also had wins for cinematography, sound, film editing, and then John Barry won for the original score. He had also won, I was looking at some of the other stuff he had done, because I really loved the music in this movie. I wanted to see what else he's known for. He also won Best Score for Out of Africa and The Lion in Winter. So some other big movies there. So, like I said, it had 12 nominations. The ones that did not win for, they had 3 acting nominations. Lead acting for Kevin Costner, supporting for Graham Greene, and then lead actress for Mary McConnell. They also lost out for set decoration and costume design.
Yeah, all right. Hefty list of award nominations and wins there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember, so growing up, my parents gave me this giant movie book where it was a mini review. It was written by 2 people, and they gave stars out of 5 to movies. I must have got it around 2003 because that was, from what I remember, the last year of movies that were in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd always go through it and look at what 5-star movies there were in it, and kind of made a list in my head of those are the movies I should watch as a kid or growing up. And I remember Dancing with Wolves. It was 5 out of 5 stars, and it was kind of considered one of the last epics to come out. I mean, I'm sure there are more that have come out since then, but when you think epics, you think of the movies from the 60s or the 50s, and then some throughout the 70s and 80s as well. But this is a fairly long movie, 3 hours, and you know, when I think of an epic, I think not only the story and the scope of the story, but the landscape is epic as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought of it kind of in that same vein, but you're right. It does kind of follow some of those things like Ben-Hur, Lawrence of Arabia, these like big, masterful, grand, centerpieces.
So yeah, I was really excited to watch it. I've seen it a number of times now. This is a movie I enjoy a lot. I think it's really good, and Kevin Costner, I think this was his directorial debut.
Oh, really?
I think, if I remember right. Hollywood loves it when actors take their shot at directing and they do a good job with it. Hence, like Redford winning Best Director for Ordinary People in his directorial debut, and Kevin Costner doing it here. This is a Civil War era movie. It's considered a Western, which I don't always think of it. When I think Western, I think of this kind of stereotypical John Wayne type things, because this is considered the first Western or second Western to win Best Picture. Mm-hmm. The first being Cimarron back in the 30s. I don't really consider this a Western, but I guess Hollywood classifies it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily consider it a Western either, other than the fact that it takes place, quote unquote, out west. So
like Unforgiven won Best Picture 2 years after this. That I consider a Western.
Yes.
But anyway, so this opens up with Dunbar wounded during battle during the Civil War. His leg or foot is injured, and the surgeons take a look at it, and they say they're going to have to cut it off. And he puts his boot back on and goes out into battle, and kind of must have a like my life is about to end moment or something, because he gets on the horse, and this battle is basically at a stalemate between the two enemies, and he takes his horse and just rides off into
across the
battlefield to the other side, kind of drawing fire from the opposing side, who keep missing him, and he takes 2 passes, and on the second pass, his army or regiment follows him into battle, and they take over and win. So they win the battle because he has like a suicide ride across the battlefield. Basically. But I can't remember his rank, but his commanding officer, whether he's a general or captain or what have you, sees him do this and admires him for it, and goes to help Dunbar up, and Dunbar's like, I don't want to lose my leg, and his commanding officer says, you won't lose it, I promise you, and I'll have my own surgeon take a look at it. So after this heroic move, Dunbar is promised any post that he wants in the war, and he chooses to pick the furthest one west, because he wants to see the frontier before it goes away. So he, in a few kind of comical scenes where he meets kind of his new commanding officer, who tells him how to get to his new post, and then the guy riding the carriage that brings him out to his post. When he gets there, there's no one there. It's been completely abandoned. So he kind of takes charge. He stays there. He cleans it up, befriends a wolf in the meantime, starts rebuilding the post. And then throughout the movie, he comes in contact with a couple of Native Americans. He shows them a couple things. They show him. It's kind of a mutual relationship. And slowly they become better and better friends. He even goes to their tribe every once in a while and meets the entire tribe, including Stands with Fist, who is, as you mentioned, a white woman, but who's been raised by these people. So she can speak English. Not very well, but she can speak English. So she acts as a translator between the two of them while Dunbar is trying to learn their language.
Because, yeah, she had been there, like, since she was a child, right?
Yeah.
So, like, she had, like you said, she has a little bit of English, but it's...
Yeah.
She works a little bit as a translator, but maybe not... she's not as fluent in English.
No, her parents were killed by a different tribe, a more violent tribe. So, and this one took her in as a kid, so she, in theory, hasn't spoken English since she was a kid. So that's why she's not great at it, but she knows it a little bit. There's a cool scene where one of the few words that Dunbar learns is Tatanka, which is buffalo or bison. And the Native Americans have been looking for the bison for a while and just haven't been able to find them. But in the middle of the night while he's at his post, he hears them or sees them running by. So he goes to the tribe and tells them about it, and they go on a hunt together, which was a cool scene.
It's, such an amazing scene. I rewatched it again just to kind of get the feel again. And yeah, you have this wide open rolling hills, and you have... I mean, it's hundreds of bison. It's this huge herd, and you've got Dunbar, and you have, most of the men from the Lakota tribe, and they're all on horseback, and they've got their arrows and their spears, and Dunbar has his gun, and they're rounding up these bison, and it's so epic. It's so majestic. There's no talking. It's just this very, very beautiful scene. Really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was one of the best scenes in the movie, for sure. 100%. So, yeah, throughout the movie, he learns things from them. They learn something, like he shows them how to grind coffee, which was kind of a funny term. But throughout the whole movie, Graham Greene's character, which was Kicking Bird, right?
Yep.
He wants to talk, or he wants to kind of get information from Dunbar, like when are the white people showing up, because they know that they've been moving more and more west, taking their land from them. And Dunbar doesn't really want to answer, I think, because he knows that it's sooner than later. And eventually, Dunbar kind of immerses himself into their culture and ways of life. He realizes, how great of people they are, and he respects their tradition so much that he kind of becomes one of them, including him and Stands with the Fist fall in love and get married at one point. And he really kind of abandons his post and starts living with them in their tribe. And they decide, I think it's a mixture of to get away from civilization, but also winter is coming or something like that. They go up into the mountains. So yeah, there's a opposing tribe, I think the same one that killed Stands with Fist family, the Pawnee tribe, that they're an imposing threat on them. So because of that threat and the white threat that's going on, the chief of the tribe decides to move to their winter camp early. So as they're doing that, Dunbar decides he's going to go with them. He's going to, again, abandon his post, kind of just become one of the members of the tribe. But he realizes that he left his journal. This whole movie he's been writing what's been going on in his journal at his post. So he's like, I have to go get that. So he by himself goes to the post to get the journal. And when he gets there, there's soldiers. It's not abandoned anymore. Soldiers have now shown up. And they mistake him for a Native American because he's dressed like one now. And they take him captive. They realize he's a white man, but they treat him like a traitor because of how he's dressed and act, and he speaks their Native American language. So they're basically going to take him back to civilization and hang him or try him as a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're transporting him back, the Lakota tribe, some members come to free him. So there's another kind of mini battle that happens, and they free Dunbar, and he's able to escape his captors and leave with the tribe, and they start heading to their winter camp. And when on their way up, Dunbar realizes that, or he thinks that his former military captors or friends or whoever are going to keep looking for him. So to help the Lakota tribe, him and Stanson with Fist decide to break away from the rest of the tribe, and they go off into the mountains on their own to be with each other, but to help protect the rest of the tribe, because he feels like they're going to keep searching for him and coming after him. So that's how the movie ends. It's I think it literally ends with them just walking off into the distance. So yeah, what were some of your favorite scenes or parts of Dances with Wolves?
Yeah, so we touched on it a little bit, but the bison hunting scene is probably one of the best scenes in the movie. It was just really fascinating to watch, and it was really neat seeing like all of the horses from the tribesmen were all painted up, and it was beautiful. The music was great. And I read some of the behind the scenes stuff. It took them 8 days to film that.
No.
And they could pretty much only do one take per day because they had all these bison out there that, they'd have to then wrangle at the end of each shot during all of this. So, but yeah, just that scene really plays into that epic genre. So that was really cool to me. You also mentioned his journal. I love it. You see him write in his journal, but they use it as like a narration device too, where he's, the Tatanka scene where, he's trying to like imitate a bison and say like, hey, let's try to figure out what this word is. And you can hear his journal narration over it, which is always really cool. And I mean, Kevin Costner has a good narrating voice too. So I really like that. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an easy way to do an explanation in movies, but I like when it's used well, good narration, because you get a little more explanation to what you're just seeing in the movie. So yeah, I always like it, and I thought it was used well in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just, it was just a really beautiful story about friendship and understanding, and I think some of my favorite scenes are where Dunbar and Kicking Bird sit down with each other, and they're constantly learning new words from each other and new methods, and like you said, they taught him things about living on the land, but he helped them find this herd of bison, and he had some like firearms and other artillery that they used in certain instances and stuff too. So it was nice seeing this kind of like mutually beneficial relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you touched on some of my favorite scenes. Yeah, the buffalo scene is really good. I think it was kind of funny when he was showing them how to grind coffee and drink from it. And just the landscape in general, or just the look of this movie is really good. The cinematography is fantastic.
It is.
Which is always, not only is it a good movie, but just seeing all that visually is always awesome. Yeah, it's a more wholesome story.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
That's probably one of the reasons you like it a lot.
Yep, for sure.
It's a man who connects with and befriends a group of people that he's told to not be friends with. So it's always nice. You kind of see this, like, don't react, have an initial reaction, try to see from their point of view, learn their ways, and then kind of make your decision on someone, right? Kind of a nice story
exactly.
There.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, it feels like one of those last grand epics. Which I wish would come back. Like, they don't need to do them all the time, but I kind of miss those movies a little bit. And I think this movie is funny at certain parts, too, and not too funny. Like, I think if you go too far one way or the other way, it can hurt the movie, but I think there's a nice comedic level to this.
Yeah.
Especially when they can't understand each other and they're trying to act things out to get their understanding around. Like, sometimes it's funny, but it makes sense with what he's trying to do. So,
or like, if I remember correctly, one of the first times I think there's like a few people from the tribe kind of, wander upon his outpost, and they can't see him because he's like bathing in the pond or river or whatever is nearby. So they try taking his horse, and he's like, what? Oh my god. So he's like running after them naked. And so it's like, that's a little bit of a comedic scene, but you're right, it's not like slapstick or anything. It's just a little bit humorous that, these guys come across this white guy and he's running after him naked to try to save his horse and stuff. So yeah, there's some good moments like that.
And whether it's intended to have this meaning or not, I think you kind of get. So in the movie, he wants to go to the frontier and out west because he wants to see it before it's gone, with the whole, impending white threat where they keep moving west and taking away the land or anything. I guess that's kind of relatable these days with, you kind of want to see some things in the world before they're quote unquote gone.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Whether it was intended to have that meaning behind it, I think there's a way to relate to that even today. So yeah, I mean, overall, I do really, really like this movie. But were there some things that you didn't love about it or anything? I know you love this movie in general, so I'm not sure if you're gonna have a lot here or not.
Yeah. The movie is a little long. It's like right at 3 hours. Or it's like 4 hours if you do the director's cut, which
that was weird too, because we own this movie on Blu-ray, and I put the Blu-ray in, and within the first 15 minutes there were some scenes where I'm like, I don't remember that scene.
And it had been a really long time since I had seen it, so I didn't know any different.
Yeah, so apparently, kind of similar to Star Wars, on Blu-ray, they only have the director's cut available. You can't get the original theatrical version on Blu-ray. But luckily, we own it on DVD as well. So I don't want to sit through a 4.5 hour long movie. So we were able to put in the DVD, which has the original just 3 hour version on it. But yeah, kind of interesting. On Blu-ray, you can't get the original version.
So yeah, it's at 3 hours. It's a little on the longer side. It's longer than I usually prefer, but like I said, it was a beautiful story and it kept my attention. So like it wasn't a deterrent. Other than the first time, I was like, oh, hope I can make it through it, but I did. So
is it because this is the battle with the Irishman and other stuff like that? Is 3 hours too long because there's stuff that you would want that you could cut out of it? Or is it just the fact that 3 hours in general?
3 hours is just that's a long time.
Okay.
So it's a long time to just, give up 3 hours of your day and sit down and do this one thing.
Because I think there's a difference between like, something being 3 hours long and there's clearly stuff that you could cut out of it, and cutting it down to 2.5 or 2+ hours would make it a better movie versus this movie is just 3 hours long, but it happens to be 3 hours and there isn't anything to it. Like, I think there's a difference. I think it's more so it just happens to be 3 hours and is a good movie. Like, maybe there's some stuff you could cut out of it, but not a lot.
Yeah, so, in terms of scoring, I give this one a 9.2, which I think might be the highest I've given so far. It's one of the best movies that we've watched. Like I said, I was really captivated by it. It's a beautiful story. I just really enjoyed it. So, what's your take?
The couple critiques that I had for it were, I didn't love Kevin Costner's acting. I think he's a good actor, and he got a Best Actor nomination for this movie, and of course he's going to star in it because he directed it. But part of me wonders if they would have gotten a quote-unquote better actor for this role, how it might have went, because
Who do you think might be good in this role? Do you have any ideas?
I didn't have any thoughts. That's for the studio to figure out, not me.
Oh, I know, but you mentioned like a better actor, so I didn't know if you had anyone in mind.
And that sounds bad, making it seem like Kevin Costner's not a good actor, which I do think he is one. And this got him an Oscar nomination, which is cool. But there were times throughout the movie where I didn't completely love his acting, but it didn't deter from the movie or anything. But it was just something I wanted to note. And the only other thing I had for this is I kind of got kind of Green Book vibes from this, where it's a glossy white savior version of a story that maybe could have gotten a little grittier or more realistic at times, but that's just me. And maybe it's because we've seen Green Book recently, and that was a big critique, and so maybe that's just why it popped into my head during this, when I started writing this review, but...
Yeah, I mean, I would counter on that with the fact that, like, I think Dunbar is, like, he's just a better person than, I don't even remember the guy's name in Green Book.
Yeah, well...
I don't remember, but...
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, Viggo Mortensen's character. Feel bad I don't remember, but... I mean, that Green Book was so one-sided, where it was literally only told from the driver's perspective. Like, this you at least see both sides. So, I mean, I can see what you're saying, because, yeah, it's like, oh, hey, look at this wonderful guy that had this wonderful relationship with the Native Americans, when that is the very, very, very hard exception to the rule.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's more so the point I'm getting at. It isn't exactly like Green Book, because you're right. Like, that is so one-sided, and this isn't like that exactly, but what you just said is more so the point I'm getting at, where it's a really nice guy who's really accepting and befriended these people, and everything worked out really well, which just, that probably isn't what would have happened most of the time, but it still brought awareness to issues like treatment of Native Americans, and I think Kevin Costner became an honorary member.
He did, yeah, which I think is really cool, and I think that speaks a lot to, well, I mean, it's very much a passion project of his, like you said, where it's like, he wanted the story, he wanted to direct it, he wanted to star in it. I was reading, because I didn't know that this was based on a book, but he knew that Michael Blake was working on a screenplay of sorts in this, like, middle to late 80s, and Kevin Costner said, hey, why don't you write into a book first, because then that'll get you a better chance of doing the screenplay. And so as soon as the book got published, Kevin Costner bought the rights to it and said, okay, now how about you do your screenplay for it? So
it's nice to hear that he was passionate about it, because that means he cared about it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, so. Exactly. And it sounds like, he didn't have the best studio support, so like he put a lot of his own money into it.
Yeah, because the budget, I'd probably have to look at, but I think it was only like $15 million. It wasn't a large budget for how grand, quote unquote grand, of an epic or film that this turned out to be. So yeah, budget was $22 million. So I wonder how much of it was his own, because I thought I saw 15 mil was from the studio. So yeah, maybe he put up $7 million of his own. I'm not sure. But box office, $424 million. I mean, this was a huge hit. I mean, I was barely alive. I mean, this came out in October or November, so I was a year old. It's not like I remember seeing this or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I remember my parents telling me and me reading about it afterwards that this was a huge box office phenomenon. Which probably helped it at the Academy Awards a little bit.
For sure.
So yeah, my score is an 8.8 on it. I do really, really like this movie. We'll get into it later. I just think it beat out some movies that I think are better. But overall, I don't want that to affect the fact that I do really like this movie and think it is very well made and really, really good.
Yeah. And, I think one thing I went into this with super, super low expectations.
Really?
Because the one time I had seen this...
Movie?
No. In high school for, like, all of our modern history lesson, basically we just sat down and watched movies. And so, yeah, how we learned about the West and the frontier was watching Dances with Wolves. And so because this is like a 3-hour movie, we watched this movie for like 5 or 6 days and 6 different classes. So that was just boring and ridiculous. So I was like, oh my God, is this movie going to be terrible? And like you said, we watched another movie right before this. I'm like, there's no way I'm staying awake for another 3 hours. And ended up loving it. So
yeah, this is a good school movie, right? Like if a teacher just wants to turn this on.
Oh yeah, because you'll watch it for 2 weeks.
A week plus, because it's 3 hours long. Yeah.
Yep. So.
And they're learning about Native Americans and the Civil War and everything. So good school movie. So yeah.
No.
For all our teacher friends out there, just pop this movie in there. It'll keep you covered for a week or so, keep the kids entertained. So yeah, for all the teacher listeners out there.
Okay. Any other parting thoughts on Dance with Wolves?
No, I think I kind of want to jump into a segment we've done once, but I didn't have this cool name for it, where we debate, or at least talk about, 2 movies that were up for Best Picture this year.
Yeah.
When I think either, whether it's between you and I or the general public, when there's a controversy on who won Best Picture, we'll try to bring it up.
Sure.
So this
kind of like we did with Shakespeare in Love and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
right?
That was the first time that we've done it. We really haven't had an instance since then where I felt it was worthy enough to bring up that something else might have won Best Picture that year. But,
yeah.
So 1990, we're calling this the Real Justice segment.
Good, I like that.
Dances with Wolves versus Goodfellas.
Okay.
So this morning, I finally did it. My New Year's resolution was to get you to watch Goodfellas, and I did it my first day.
Yep.
Good job, me. Got you to watch Goodfellas, finally. This is also not as long, but a longer movie, like 2:20, something like that.
Yeah.
Directed by Martin Scorsese. It's widely considered his best movie of his career. I mean, you could probably debate a couple movies, but this is usually up there. And Dances with Wolves beat it out for Best Picture. I guess, where do you want to start? Do you just want to talk about the 2 movies at first, or do you want me to go through the 4 sections that I have here?
Let's go through the 4 sections, and we can kind of throw stuff in
Okay.
as we go.
So the first one, if you remember, I have music or soundtrack for the movies. Which one do you think was better? Dances with Wolves or Goodfellas? I think I know which way you're going to go.
Dances with Wolves,
Yeah.
for sure. It plays a stronger role in it.
Yeah, I'd probably have to lean that way too, because Goodfellas, there's good music in it, but it isn't like a driving force behind the movie.
No, and it's, they play like hit songs from the time period, because like it takes place over a number of years, and so it's like, oh, hey, here's 1970, let's play a song from there. So you're right, it's not a driving factor.
Yeah, so I would probably have to side with Dancing with Wolves on that one too.
Yep.
The next one I had up, I think this one's kind of a layup too, but cinematography, set design.
Dances with Wolves. I mean, it's on the American frontier. It's beautiful. It's a little better than these alleyways and shady places in New York City and Pittsburgh. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's not a lot of conversation going on here because I kind of have to agree that the cinematography was better in Dances with Wolves as well. What about the acting?
It's tough because, I mean, really Kevin Costner's the main player in the story in Dances with Wolves, and his acting was fine. Like you said, it was good. It didn't blow me away, but like his character's not a real flashy person. So yeah, I would go with Goodfellas. I think it's a good cast, and just more captivating characters.
Yeah, I think so.
Not any more likable, but they're more captivating.
They don't have to be likable for it to be a better movie, but yeah, I mean, if you look at it just awesome, so Dances with Wolves got 3 acting nominations and Goodfellas got 2. But I'm gonna go with Goodfellas on this one because, as I mentioned earlier, Kevin Costner got an Oscar nomination for this movie, but I didn't think he didn't blow me away with his role. I think it was more so he got a nomination because this was still a time period where if you were the lead star in an epic, huge movie, you probably are going to get a nomination just because you were the lead of that movie.
Yeah. What was Goodfellas nominated for in their acting?
Joe Pesci, who would go on to win, which I'll touch on later on, and then
for supporting?
Yes, he won for supporting. And then I can't remember her name, but the wife of Henry Hill.
Oh, okay.
Lorraine, Lorraine Bracco, who played Karen Hill, was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. But yeah, I'm going with Goodfellas on this because I think just all around the acting, I mean, Robert De Niro is fantastic in this. Ray Liotta, younger Ray Liotta, was really good in it. While there are a couple standouts like Graham Greene, who got an Oscar nomination for Dances with Wolves, and Mary McDonnell, who got nominated. They're good, and I'm glad they got a nomination. But I think the overall acting, which is the more so the driving force behind Goodfellas, was definitely better and edges Dances with Wolves out. So the story, dialogue, which one was better?
I would go with Dances with Wolves on this one. It's a story that I haven't heard or seen before, and Goodfellas is, I think, a pretty traditional gangster story.
Ooh, really? I think Goodfellas was groundbreaking with the storytelling because it would show like the inside of the mafia over 30 years. It gave new meaning to a lot of the things in the mafia, like...
I mean, maybe it was the first to do it, but we've seen a number of... I mean, I just watched that for the first time today. I know it's been out for 30 years, but it's the first time I've seen it, and I've seen a number of other gangster movies similar to it. So that's why, for me, it seems like it's been done before. So maybe when it first came out, it was new, original, but it didn't have that feel watching it for the first time in 2020.
Isn't Dances with Wolves just kind of Pocahontas?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a story that...
It's fair.
The story isn't crazy different to me.
No. But I think it's... the story to me is just... It's better than the Goodfellas. I like it more.
I think...
That's all. I like it more.
Goodfellas is more so my story. I don't even want to say that because like I really like the story for Dancing with Wolves, but I know you'd probably connect more with the Dancing with Wolves one more. But all right. Well, I guess with our tally system here, that would give, because we kind of tied on the story here, that would give the edge to Dances with Wolves, but I just want to be clear that I disagree, and I think Goodfellas is a better movie.
So what's... Because you went 2 and 2 on the 4 things that we did. So what puts Goodfellas ahead of Dance with Wolves?
I mean, to me, Dance with Wolves, with it being, in my opinion, a little of a glossy look at Native American and white America back then relations. I look at Goodfellas and it's a more realistic look at what life as being in the mafia or the mob was back then. I take it as it's more realistic than what Dances with Wolves probably was. So I guess I just like that aspect of it more. And I do feel like Dances with Wolves, well, it's not an exact remake or anything of Pocahontas. I feel like it's a storyline that's what people criticize Avatar with.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just Dancing with Wolves, or oh, it's just Pocahontas, or whatever. Like, Dancing with Wolves is, like, it's not anything crazy new to me, whereas when I see Goodfellas, I'm like, this is, to me, a legit inside look at in life with the mafia, and that isn't something that I felt like had been explored at that time yet. So that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I guess Real Justice says that Dancing with Wolves wins Best Picture. So last thing I wanted to bring up with the whole Dancing with Wolves versus Goodfellas debate is on Reddit earlier today, I posted the image of all the Best Picture nominees and that Dancing with Wolves won. And it said, Happy New Year, 2020 is the 30-year anniversary of Dancing with Wolves winning Best Picture. What changes, if any, would you make to the winner and or nominees? So thank you to everyone that upvoted and commented on this. Here are some of the comments on it. I will never forgive this debacle. Dancing with Wolves is great, but Goodfellas is royalty. That's from Night Escaper. Royalty.
Yeah.
Goodfellas. I like it. I like that.
Calling Dance with Wolves winning a debacle, that's strong.
Yeah.
That's a strong take.
Saying debacle isn't great, but like they were covered here saying that it's great, which I agree with. But
a debacle is calling out the incorrect winner.
Yeah, that was a debacle.
The award, not saying this one was.
Yeah, so I do for the most part agree there though. A lot of I'd give it a Goodfellas or Dancing with Wolves. Here's one. This is interesting because I like to rework the nominations, which will come up after this. But this person, sorry about my fart butt. Good name there.
Oh, that's their name.
Yeah, that's their name. Said winner Goodfellas. Nominees, they kind of changed it up here, which I like. Dancing with Wolves, still getting nomination. Miller's Crossing, which is great. That's John Turturro. I think it's a Coen Brothers movie.
I haven't heard of it.
Right? It's a really good, another gangster movie. The Grifters, which, there you go, that movie has got a lot of nominations. And Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, okay.
Good on you. Sorry about my fart butt. There's I like some of those nominees there. And then how about this? So this says Goodfellas, spelt it a little wrong. All the way, the Oscars usually screw it up, and then correct_salad commented with, that's why I'm watching the Oscars, to get frustrated and annoyed. Little hate watch there from correct salad.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which I totally understand. The Oscars, they don't always get it right. They rarely, I shouldn't say rarely, more often than not, there's probably a lot of questions that happen around them, but that's why we watch sometimes. So, do any of these comments make you feel differently about picking Dancing with Wolves or Goodfellas?
No.
That debacle?
I stand by that. I mean, I'm not a movie critic. I'm not the person that's saying, oh, well, this is a better film. Because, I like Dances with Wolves better. So, that's always going to be my answer. I'm glad that I won. It's fine.
That's fair. Stick to your guns there.
Yep.
On it.
Yep.
That's all right. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring up the Reddit post and thank you again for all those that commented and follow along. But we'll roll into some of the other categories here. We'll list off the nominees and winners for 1990 and then close it out with our rankings of the Star Wars movies.
Okay, so do we want to start with the supporting actress nominees for the year?
Yeah, so nominated was Annette Bening, possibly her first nomination. Can't remember. For the Grifters, Lorraine Bracco, as we mentioned, for Goodfellas, Diane Ladd, who I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, I've never heard of her before.
Wild at Heart, and Mary McDonnell for Dancing with Wolves, and then the winner was Whoopi Goldberg for Ghost.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, most of these roles, I'm like, I couldn't say I've seen them or remember this role, but hearing Whoopi Goldberg as Ghost, that seems like that was probably an easy pick.
Yeah, I've only seen 3 of these. I've seen Ghost, Goodfellas, Dancing with Wolves. Yeah, I mean, I think most people were really happy that Whoopi Goldberg finally won an Oscar. She'd been nominated before for Color Purple and didn't win. She's great actress, iconic in how many roles, like Sister Act and other movies like that. She was great in Ghost, so I'm not changing anything here. She's the winner. I feel like I haven't seen enough of these other movies to say this person shouldn't have been nominated and this person should have, so.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Why don't we go through the supporting actor nominees?
Yeah, so this was Bruce Davidson for Longtime Companion. He's been in a couple things. I always picture him, he's the bad guy senator in X-Men. I don't know if that helps you out with who he is.
I'm sure I would recognize him if I saw him.
Andy Garcia for The Godfather Part 3. That's his only Oscar nomination.
Okay.
Graham Greene for Dancing with Wolves. Al Pacino for Dick Tracy. And then Joe Pesci won for Goodfellas. This one was maybe up in debate. I mean, I don't know for sure without being alive back then or being aware of it back then. But when I looked it up, Bruce Davidson, I think he won the Golden Globe. And then I think he won a couple other awards. The SAG Awards didn't exist back then, so I didn't have anything to look up there. But I know Bruce won the Golden Globe, so it wasn't a definitive.
Like it wasn't a runaway.
Yeah, but I'm happy Joe Pesci won. This is his only win. He'd been nominated for Raging Bull before, and he's a fantastic actor. I mean, not only in dramatic stuff like Goodfellas and Casino and Raging Bull, But, I mean, he's hilarious, too. You think of My Cousin Vinny, which...
One of my favorite movies.
I mean, we'll have to look at that year sometime. When we get to that year, I'll have to look at the nominees for Best Actor. But, I mean, I think, even though it's a comedy, he could have easily been nominated for that movie.
So good. So good in that
Home Alone 2. And then, he came out The Irishman, I can't say earlier this year anymore, last year. And he's getting praised for that. He's just an all-around fantastic actor, and I'm glad he's an Academy Award winner, and he was great. What'd you think of him in this movie?
He was good. Yeah, he was really good in it. Yeah, he was. I think he probably had 90% of the F words thrown around in this movie. I think he said that about every other word. But yeah, he played a great character in Goodfellas.
Yep. So I'm not really changing anything in this. Again, I've seen 4 of these 5. I haven't seen Longtime Companion, and that's the one that maybe people could argue, just since Bruce had won the Golden Globe, but I'm not changing anything in there.
Yeah. How about, do you have any changes that you would make to the Best Actress nominations?
I don't really, unfortunately, I'm not making a lot of changes here. Part of it is I haven't seen a lot of these movies, but yeah, nominees, Angelica Houston for The Grifters, Julia Roberts for Pretty Woman.
Oh, nice.
Meryl Streep with her usual nomination for Postcards from the Edge. Joanne Woodward getting, I guess, a later in life nomination here for Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. And then the winner was Kathy Bates for Misery.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit, maybe more of an unusual role to win Best Actress. It's a role based off a Stephen King novel, kind of a horror movie. But I think completely well-deserving. This is her only win with a handful of nominations. I'm not really going to change too much or anything at all here, but apparently I need to see The Grifters because they've got a number of nominations on this list, and I've never even heard of that movie. So.
I was going to say, do you even... I don't know what it's about or anything.
No, I'm not.
Probably Grifters. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a good bet there. Like how Pretty Woman is about a pretty woman.
Is it about a pretty woman?
Yeah. But yeah, how about Julia Roberts getting a nomination for Pretty Woman? It's kind of an...
Yeah,
rom-coms don't get a lot of love, so seeing her get a nomination there is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how about Best Actor? We already know that Kevin Costner was nominated in this role, but who else do we have?
Yeah, Robert De Niro was nominated, not for Goodfellas, but for Awakenings. Richard Harris for The Field, and then Gerard Depardieu for Cyrano de Bergerac. Cyrano de Bergerac. Okay.
Say it again so you're not laughing.
No, it's fine. I'll keep on. So those were the nominees, and then Jeremy Irons won for Reversal of Fortune. So
like the hot dog eating contest, Reversal of Fortune.
Probably not.
That's what they say when you throw up at the hot dog eating contest on 4th of July every year. If they have a reversal of fortune, you're disqualified.
Yeah, I'm just picturing Jeremy Irons just throwing hot dogs in water and slamming them down his throat and puking them up at the end.
Okay, so
Oscar-winning role there.
He won.
Yes.
Reversal of Fortune. Back on track. Okay.
I've seen all these except for the one I had a hard time pronouncing.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
That one. Reading is hard, guys. I tell you, it's tough. That's the only one I haven't seen. So there's really only a couple changes here. One change I would make. One, Jeremy Irons. He's a fantastic actor, Scar in Lion King, right? Mm-hmm. But this is his only nomination and only win. And
really?
Yeah.
1 for 1.
Yep, 1 for 1. And he plays Klaus Van Bülow, which, does that name sound familiar to you at all?
It does.
He was the guy who was accused of killing his wife by overdosing her with insulin, I think.
Oh, okay.
So... And in the movie, Glenn Close plays his wife.
Gotcha.
And then it's the trial that happens afterwards. So he is creepy in it. When I saw that movie and I watched it, I went, this doesn't really feel like an Academy Award-winning role to me. I wouldn't even say he's necessarily the lead in it that much. His lawyer, I can't remember who he's played by, but he kind of seemed to have the most screen time to me. But when I look at these other nominees, there really isn't anyone else that blows me away. So I'm going to leave him as the actor because I kind of just like knowing that Jeremy Irons has won an Oscar before because he's such a fantastic actor. But I will say when I saw this movie, it didn't feel like an Academy Award winning role to me. I was surprised to find out that was the role he won his Oscar for, but whatever. So the one change I would make, mainly I feel bad because I haven't seen this movie, but I'm taking Gerard out and I'm putting in Robin Williams because he's the one who actually got a lot of other award nominations for his role in Awakenings.
Oh,
which
okay.
he co-stars with Robert De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
So he plays a doctor, and De Niro is his patient who's in a coma. He has a rare condition where he is still alive, but it doesn't move. And Robin Williams figures out how he can wake up or awaken. And it's kind of reintroducing this guy there's some side effects to him waking up. Where he can't walk or talk all that well, but he can still do it, and it's him like being reintroduced to the world that he's been cut off from for 20 odd years. And Robin Williams, this was one of his first, I'd say Dead Poets Society was maybe the first like very straight dramatic role that he did that made people go, oh wow. But this one was right after it and really, really good. He plays a doctor who he's like afraid to talk to other people. He isn't too social, and it's about him kind of growing as a person and falling in love with one of the nurses and becoming friends with Robert De Niro. I think his performance was phenomenal, and I don't know why he didn't get a nomination for this movie and why they gave it. I mean, I get why they gave De Niro one, but from what I can tell, Williams is getting more so the praise for this movie, so I don't know why he didn't get an Oscar nomination. So I would put him in as a Best Actor nominee. And I have seen The Field, which was Richard Harris, his nomination. He's great in it, but I hate his character because he's just a straight asshole. He accidentally kills someone.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah,
yes.
He I can't remember. I think it's Ireland or Scotland. I feel bad that I can't just remember which one he's in, but he works this field that's owned by someone else. And when that person passes away, he intends on buying this land because he's worked on it for so long. And the town he lives in, they all understand that. And they're like, all right, we're not going to bid against you. And he has a son who's played by Sean Bean. And Richard Harris is very much, his character name in this is Bull. And that's because he's kind of an asshole. And he's very much a bull in this movie. Mm-hmm. But Tom Berenger shows up as an American businessman and buys the land. And Bull, Richard Harris, is so mad that he accidentally kills him. And then the rest of the movie is about him trying to hide the fact that he killed him. And I don't know. I didn't love the movie. He's good in it, but that's, I guess, all I have to say on that one.
Yeah. So in 1990, who do we have for Best Director?
So we've got Francis Ford Coppola being nominated for Godfather Part 3. So he got nominated for Best Director for all three of the Godfather movies. Okay. Scorsese for Goodfellas. Stephen Frears for The Grifters. Again, apparently got to see that movie. Barbette Schrader for Reversal of Fortune. And then the winner was Kevin Costner for Dances with Wolves. So, first up, I'm going to take Francis Ford Coppola out. Really? Because I'm just going to say right now, I don't like The Godfather Part 3.
That's fair.
I would barely call it a good movie.
Okay.
But I think just because it's a Godfather movie and it got like okay reviews, they gave it like 7 nominations and it didn't win any of them.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think I dislike this movie a lot. Incest. There's incest in Godfather Part 3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So take out Francis Ford Coppola.
Taking them out, and I'm putting in Penny Marshall for Awakenings.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know why she didn't get nominated. I don't know. Like, I just feel like, one, you got to break up the boys club here, but two, she's just a fantastic director, and Awakenings is a fantastic movie, and so I'd put her in. And as far as who the winner is, I'm not gonna lie, part of me really wants to say Martin Scorsese for Goodfellas, but when I watch Dances with Wolves and I see all the awards, I mean, Kevin Costner, he cleaned up every director award and every ceremony for this movie. part of it probably still has to is biased towards Hollywood being like you're an actor who took their turn in directing and you did a good job, so here you go. But I'm going to keep Kevin Costner in as best director because just the scope of this movie being huge and him being able to, on his first try, like put this movie together, and with it being as good as it is, I'm going to keep him in as best director.
Okay, sounds good. I know I touched on 2 films for Best Picture, but what else was nominated that year?
So Awakenings was nominated for Best Picture, which again, I don't know why Penny Marshall didn't get a Best Director nomination. Ghost was nominated for Best Picture. Godfather Part 3 was nominated for Best Picture.
Again, probably just because it's part of the Godfather family.
Yep. Goodfellas, and then Dancing with Wolves, which clearly won Best Picture. Those are the nominees and the winner. I'm going to just take out Godfather Part 3 because I don't like that movie at all. I'm going to put in a movie that I haven't seen but has a bunch of other nominations here, and that's The Grifters. I mean, that movie got, 2 acting nominations and a Best Director nomination. Yeah, put it in for Best Picture. I want to get Godfather Part 3 out of there. And then, I mean, I'm sorry, I know, like, this, probably people could tell I was going to do this, but I'm taking Best Picture away from Dancing with Wolves, and I'm splitting Best Director and Best Picture with Goodfellas and Dancing with Wolves, and I, in my opinion, the Best Picture in 1990 was Goodfellas, and I think it should have won Best Picture. So, got Best Picture, we got Best Picture, Goodfellas, Director, sticking with Kevin Costner. Really, the rest of the winners I didn't change. So we got Jeremy Irons for Reversal of Fortune, Kathy Bates for Misery, Joe Pesci for Goodfellas, and Whoopi Goldberg for Ghost.
Let's talk about our rankings for the 9 trilogy episodes. Start from lowest to the highest?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to go first this time? Why don't you go first?
Okay. So at number 9, at the bottom of the barrel for me, is Attack of the Clones, which I gave all these a score, which is kind of up for change because I haven't seen these in a while. But I gave it a 5 out of 10. I don't like this movie a lot. I think as a kid when I saw it in theaters, it was really cool to see, but when you watch it again, there's a lot of things that don't make sense, and it's just with special effects, visual effects wise, it's just a mess.
It's so bad. And I was gonna say that, like, I saw it when it first came out, and even then I was like, I didn't really like that one, and the computer graphics were terrible. I thought they were so bad and they were so stupid. That one is my lowest as well. I have that one ranked as number 9. I gave that one a 6.
Next for me is Phantom Menace.
Okay.
And this one, people give a lot of hate to it. I think mainly because it was just a huge disappointment.
Huge letdown.
But I don't think it's as bad, obviously as bad as Attack of the Clones, but I don't think it's as bad as what most people say it is. I gave it a 6. It still has some huge issues in it. It does have one of the better fight scenes at the end with
like
Darth
the lightsaber
Maul.
battle,
yeah. But it still has a bunch of issues, and I hate some of the things they introduced in this movie, like midichlorians. I really, really don't like that.
Which is
midichlorians are okay. Throughout the original trilogy, basically. The Force and Jedis, it was a belief or a religion, if you could say it that way. And they decided to put science behind it with midichlorians, which are little living organisms that are inside of you, and the more you have, the more connected to the Force you are. Mm-hmm. I just hate that. Like, I just think I like the idea of it being a belief more than
like it could be
organisms.
anyone.
Yeah, like I like the idea of anyone could be a Force user or Jedi user as long as they have the belief there. So they put midichlorians behind it. I hated that, and also they took a weird, I just talked about how I like the Force being a belief, or it's kind of a religion, but they made Anakin not have a father, or not made, but they decided to go that route where he was born from midichlorians, where his mom is like the Virgin Mary.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
part.
That was when Qui-Gon is
so stupid.
talking to Anakin's mom, and who's the father? And she says there was no father. Can't explain it. Like, I didn't love that either. That's really on the nose. I mean, as on the nose as you can get with this. So I just didn't love some of the things they introduced. And I don't love Jar Jar Binks either. He's really annoying.
Yeah. So my number 8 is The Last Jedi. That's what I have ranked here. I give that one a 6.5. It just, I don't know. I don't think it was very interesting.
No, I didn't love it when I first saw it, but I think I've just grown to appreciate it a little bit more. But.
And I think part of it too is like I loved Force Awakens so much. Like I was really excited for Last Jedi. It just wasn't as exciting for me.
All right, fair enough. My number 7 is Rise of Skywalker, the one we just saw with 7.1. Said it earlier. It's just a mess. Like I know I brought up earlier. It kind of depends on how you want to look at a Star Wars movie. Is it just a fun space adventure that you can just kind of shut your brain off and enjoy for 2 hours, or should it be a more cohesive movie? I lean towards more cohesive movie because I think that's what the original trilogy was. Sure, they were fun and they were a little out there, but they were still movies that made sense. They were just good movies. So this one being a mess, especially in the first half, and everything we talked about for the last 40 minutes or whatever are the reasons why this one's lower for me.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be really mad at me. I'm sure other Star Wars listeners are going to be really mad at me for this one, but my number 7 is Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. Nothing happens in that movie. It's a total setup for Return of the Jedi. And it had been a really long time since I had seen it, and we watched it, I don't know, last year, 2 years ago, and we sat there and it ended. I'm like, literally nothing happened except Darth Vader being his father. That I did not, I didn't find that interesting. Are you in that mode of if you're not going to say anything nice, just don't say anything at all?
You are entitled to your opinion.
I don't think anything happens in that movie.
A lot of things happen.
It's a total setup for the next one. If you watch it on its own, you'd be like, what the hell is happening? It's just a bridge between 4 and 6. That's all it is. That's how I see it.
So my number 6, I've got Revenge of the Sith. I think it's clearly the best of the prequel movies. It's a 7.5 for me. I think it is messy still, visual effects wise. They do have a cool lightsaber battle at the end, but the dialogue is rough in this one. But they do tie it in to the original. Like by the end of it, they do tie everything into the original trilogy. Probably as best as they could. There's still some plot holes in there, but it's still wrapped up pretty nicely. So that's my number 6.
And my number 6 is Episode 1, Phantom Menace. I didn't say the score I gave for Empire Strikes Back. I gave it a 7. Phantom Menace I'm giving a 7.2. It was fine. I think as a kid, like, that was the first, like, new Star Wars movie I saw, so I thought it was pretty exciting. And watching it back, like, it's not as bad as I think some people want to say it is.
No,
I mean, it's fine.
You get introduced to some new characters that are, well, good and bad. You get Darth Maul, who has become a really popular character and had his own comic book line for a while because he survived what happened to him at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's reintroduced into like the shows like Rebels and Clone Wars, as well as, spoiler alert, he shows up at the end of Solo as well. So, but you also get introduced to a lot of dumb characters too. So there's a good and bad to that.
Yeah. So what's your number 5?
The Last Jedi. which I have as a 7.8 right now for my score. When I first saw this, it was probably lower score-wise, but as I mentioned, I after my fandom brain was angry for a couple days or week or whatever it was, and I finally sat down and thought about what happened in the movie. I do like that it wasn't just a straight remake of Empire Strikes Back, and it did kind of take a turn into its own storyline, so I've come to appreciate it a little bit more, but there's still some things that I just don't love about it, story-wise and everything, that it's still a little bit lower for me. So I give that one a 7.8, and it's my number 5.
And my number 5 is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Gave this one a 7.5. It's better than Empire Strikes Back, but it's not as good as some of the newer ones, I guess.
My number 4 is Force Awakens. I gave that, this is the big jump for me, so I gave Revenge of the Sith a 7.8. I gave Force Awakens a 9.3.
Whoa! Oh my god. So your top 4 movies are all in the 9s.
Yeah.
And your lowest is a 5.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot, like offline, that you and I have very different rating systems.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
So I like that.
Force Awakens, I loved it. It was a great introduction into a new trilogy. That you get a lot of the old characters that you love, like Han Solo is a main character in this movie, and Chewie and the Millennium Falcon and everything. But I think they did a really good job at showing you or developing new characters. I mean, Finn, the way they introduced him was awesome. He was a stormtrooper that defected. That is something that we hadn't seen before in the mainstream movies. Poe is, the top pilot for the Republic, or they're not the Rebellion anymore, but the Resistance, I guess. And then Rey is this nobody who is somehow really connected to the Force. There's a lot of mystery behind that. So I thought this movie did a great job at blending the old characters that we know and love with new characters that I thought were really interesting. Even though the overarching plot to this movie is very similar to A New Hope, I still really loved it.
Yeah. My number 4 is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I ranked this one a 7.6. I really loved the end of this movie when it's Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting at the lava planet, whatever. Just that whole scene and like him being put in the suit, like that totally like wraps it up for me. I love that.
I have the high ground.
Yeah,
it's over.
I know.
The fight's just over because he has the high ground.
That's fine.
It's a lot of battles would end if it was just I have the high ground. We're done.
Whatever. I liked it.
No, it's fine. There's some dialogue in that movie that's kind of interesting.
I know. And, he gets so emotional, like, you are the chosen one,
Yeah,
it's
Ewan McGregor.
good stuff. Ewan McGregor, he's so good in that one.
Yeah.
I mean, he's good in the first 3.
Is that the last of the prequel trilogy?
Yes.
On either of our lists?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say Ewan McGregor. Some people, for whatever reason, don't like him in the I think he's one of the best things to come out of the prequel. For
sure.
Him as Obi-Wan, I love. He's getting his own show, the Obi-Wan show, that's going to be on Disney Plus next year.
Oh, and he's
he is Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's cool.
It takes place after Revenge of the Sith.
Nice.
So he's awesome in them. I just Hayden Christensen whether it's his fault or not, his acting isn't the best at it, so there's just some issues in that. But I agree that movie does tie up the prequel trilogy pretty well and into the original one.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is Return of the Jedi. I have it as a 9.5. Don't roll your eyes at me. As a kid, this was my favorite Star Wars movie. This would normally be number 1, but unfortunately I've matured a little bit and have
Unfortunately you've matured? Oh, okay.
Yep. This was my favorite one as a kid. Green was my favorite color, so I loved Luke's green lightsaber. That scene in the beginning on Tatooine when he's standing over the Sarlacc pit and they're telling him to jump in it. And he jumps in and then hangs on basically the diving board that he's on, jumps up in the air, and R2 shoots his lightsaber at him, and he catches it and then starts fighting with it. That was one of my favorite scenes growing up. I definitely didn't reenact it as a kid, jumping off the couch and having someone throw me a green marker and catching it. That didn't happen, but if it did, it was pretty cool.
You've already shared that.
No? Oh well. But the Ewoks were, as a kid, you love the Ewoks and the battle scene at the end. And it just, it ends the original trilogy. They take down the Empire, and who doesn't love the conclusion to a good story? So, as a kid, I loved it. Now I understand the love behind the two movies I have above it, but I still really love Return of the Jedi. And yeah, give it a 9.5.
Awesome. My number 3 is Rise of Skywalker, which we just talked about. As I said, I gave that one an 8.0. One thing that I really liked was, as Rey's kind of laying on the ground at the end and she sees Leia's face and she hears all these voices of like the Jedi's past, kind of like, hey, you can do this, and then she like gets up, and I love that part, and I think
that part was really cool.
I
wish we could have seen the character instead of just hearing the voices. I wish we could have seen that maybe. But yeah, that part was cool.
So I think for me that, bumped the score up a little bit, and I think I've got some recency bias with how I'm ranking some of these, but yeah, that's where I put my number 3.
Okay. Number 2 for me is A New Hope, the original one. So as a kid, I didn't love this one because there isn't a good lightsaber fight scene in it.
Well, lightsaber usage is not great. They haven't honed their skill yet.
It was just the one between Vader and old Ben Kenobi, and it was kind of a lame fight, and Ben loses on purpose. So that's why I didn't love this one as a kid, but I, again, have matured. I understand the love behind it now, and it introduces us. It's the one that started it all, right? Introduced us to this whole universe and the characters that we love. So, yeah, I have it at number 2 with a 9.9.
I also have A New Hope at number 2. I scored this one 8.5. It's a really good movie. Probably the one thing that maybe holds it back from number 1 is that Luke is just really annoying, especially in the beginning.
He's a little whiny.
He's so whiny. But it's a super interesting story, and like I said, it kicks off this thing that's just, you and I talk about like other fantasy science fiction type stories like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like those things are big and people have fans, but nothing is as extensive as Star Wars. And this creation from George Lucas started it all. Okay, give us your number 1.
Number 1 is Empire Strikes Back. It is a 10 out of 10. It is one of the best movies ever made, and a lot happens in this movie.
Agree to disagree. Maybe we'll sit down and watch again.
Yeah, we should.
So you can change your mind.
A lot. So, Han gets in carbonite. It's got a great battle scene. It's revealed that Darth Vader is Luke's father. This is the movie that, so at the end of A New Hope, it's called A New Hope. By the end of the movie, there's hope to the rebellion, right? They take down the Death Star. This is called Empire Strikes Back, literally for that same reason. By the end of this movie, the rebellion is in shambles. The Empire has literally taken control of this fight again. That's a lot. That's a big thing to happen in these movies.
See, maybe it's not so much that, nothing happens, but there's, no conclusion to anything. If you watch this movie, like I said, if you watch this movie on your own, you'd be like, this is, there's no resolution to anything. Like you said, okay, Han's in carbonite. What happens next? Oh, gotta watch the next movie. Oh, Darth Vader's his father? What happens with that? Oh, gotta watch the next movie. If you see it on its own, not worthwhile.
I get your point, but I'm just
saying that's what was so frustrating for me, watching it. We sat and watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 in a row, and I'm like, 5, it was so disappointing. For me, my number one is Force Awakens. I gave this an 8.6. It was super interesting. Like I said, it was fun to see a brand new group of characters. The story is pretty similar to New Hope, but for me, I think it was just the details were drawn out a little better. It was a clearer storyline to me. It was a little bit like easier to pick up what was going on. So I really liked it.
Okay. No, that's fair. I like that one a lot too. So
yeah. So that wraps up our Star Wars rankings.
So yeah, that's all we have for you this week here on the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. We're there as Oscar Reel Pod. Like and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a good review. And next week we've got Richard Jewell, which was directed by Clint Eastwood, and In the Heat of the Night, which was the Best Picture winner in 1967. And the Golden Globes are happening this Sunday, so who knows, maybe we'll talk about those winners a little bit, if there are some surprises or other exciting things that have happened. But other than that, this has been Matt and Haley from the Oscar Reel Podcast.
Go see a movie this week.